It's great to see you all again, and thank you for inviting me today. I know many of you in this area have seen your insurance drop because of wildfire risk, or are paying double or even triple what you paid just a few years ago. Essentially, the beautiful running tree-covered hills of Orinda that I'm so familiar with, to the grasslands of the Diablo Range, with the variety of urban and suburban communities in between. This district really reflects the reality in California that we live in, and that really dictates the availability and affordability of insurance. I want to get into that in the question section, since we received a number of questions surrounding this topic. But I also want to say a little bit about the current situation, the devastating fires we have around the state. The lightning fires across are close to home, and the other major fires nearby in North Bay and the South Bay, and down to Monterey. Today, the Department of Insurance staff is on the ground at the local assistance centers in Santa Cruz and in Monterey County, giving in-person advice and information to help wildfire survivors. Additionally, we are taking many requests through our helpline, our 1-800 number, and through our website, to also help people that should socially distance, I should say. One of the things my staff is hearing is that some evacuees are losing access to their insurance benefits to pay for a hotel or other emergency expenses after just 2 weeks, even when their homes are still difficult to reach or uninhabitable, quite honestly, due to the loss of water or power or some other circumstance. That is something that we've seen firsthand after the Camp Fire as well, when residents in Paradise were unable to move back to their homes because water mains were damaged by the heat of the fire, but people had to pay out of pocket for these emergency costs. That does not seem fair to me whatsoever. And just last week, I took action to extend additional living expenses benefits to people who are in this situation. Additionally, I sponsored legislation this year to make this change permanent. That is, this bill's on the governor's desk with bipartisan support. So I hope the governor signs SB 872 by Senator Dodd. It also clears up a lot of other red tape for wildfire survivors. An immediate advance payment of no less than 4 months of living expenses is critical. Reducing onerous itemization of homeowners' personal contents, especially after the tragedy that they've experienced and the trauma. The last thing people want to do or remember is, how do I itemize all these things? A 60-day grace period for premium payments for policyholders is a humane thing to do, and allowing a homeowner who suffers a total loss but elects not to rebuild to collect the full benefit without the deduction of the land value, which is critical. So I want to thank you, Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan, for your support for these needed changes, and thank you. And it's great to have you in the legislature, somebody that really understands what our community is going through up and down the state. If you ever suffer a wildfire loss, the Department of Insurance is going to be there to help you and get the most out of your insurance benefits. This is what we do. And of course, we are still dealing with the pandemic, which has turned our lives upside down. Welcome to my humble abode in downtown Los Angeles. My priority since the pandemic has started have really been getting money back to consumers and businesses, helping small businesses to file insurance claims and combat fraud, protecting the health of Californians now more than ever, and continuing to respond to the wildfires and how people prepare. I ordered partial refunds to motorists due to the lower risk on the road, which have resulted in $1.2 billion in relief to California drivers so far. I expect the savings to continue as long as people are driving less due to the pandemic, and we really see the risk profile drop because people are working from home and not driving as much. And so insurance companies should give you a discount for that, and we're continuing to monitor that. I'm proud of the order we submitted to mandate that that actually happen. So if you have any questions about your home, auto, business, or other insurance issues, please contact my department at 1-800-927-4357. I'm going to keep giving you this number over and over again. So it's 1-800-927-4357. We have experts who can help you Monday through Friday. These are not, you're not going to get a recording. We speak multiple languages, so whatever language you feel comfortable in. You can also use our new live chat feature at insurance.ca.gov. Thank you again. I look forward to answering your questions about the affordability, availability of insurance coverage, and any other issues that you're confronting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here, Commissioner Lara. And you've heard a little bit about the work we've done together in Sacramento, but wildfires, even in the pandemic, you know, when we had to cut down our bill load and we had to really prioritize, wildfires stayed a top priority for the legislature because we knew that even in a pandemic, wildfires weren't going to take a break. So some incredible work, and I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But first, I'm going to turn it over to my partner here in Orinda, who does incredible work on fire prevention, Melanie Light, the chair of the Orinda Firewise Council. And she founded the Orinda Firewise Council, which is a network of Firewise groups that support each other by sharing resources and best practices and advocate with government agencies for wildfire prevention. And I can say she's very good at this. We've had calls where she's advocated for wildfire prevention measures from me. So welcome, Melanie. It's good to see you.
Great. Thank you so much, Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan. We are so excited to partner with you on this program to bring people this critical information. We're grateful to the State Department of Insurance for their good work with the logistics putting together this event. And I just also want to give a special shout out to Sue Wecht from the Orinda Firewise Council for her work on this event too. And we're grateful for Commissioner Lara, State Fire Marshal Richwine, and the Executive Director of the United Policyholders, Amy Bach, for being with us here today. About 2 years ago, our fire chief, Dave Winokur of the Moraga Orinda Fire District, began making presentations to neighborhoods about wildfire. My neighbors and I went to one, and we were horrified to discover how vulnerable we are now because of climate change and the incredible backlog of fuel that's been accumulating all over the place. And we found out our town could be destroyed in less than an hour. Yeah, it's pretty scary. But luckily, our chief also has an action plan, which is to remove the fuel. The best way to do that is actually through Firewise, because it's a community-based program through the National Fire Prevention Association. If you're listening and you don't know what Firewise is, please do a search for Firewise USA to find out about it. Firewise groups have been popping up here in Orinda, and now we have at least 17 groups with more starting every day. So from those groups, we created a network of Firewise communities across Orinda to support our work. And as Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan said, to share information and best practices and to advocate for our safety. So currently we represent over 1,400 households, though I'm a little bit behind with those numbers. I think we're actually bigger. We're growing, and we hope to make the entire town Firewise. In our short tenure, we've done a fair amount. Among our proudest achievements is that we have inspired our mayor, Darlene G., to start a joint subcommittee with the town of Moraga and the fire district to focus on fire prevention. We submitted to our city a list of no to low cost measures that the city can take now to make us safer, like training the Department of Public Works employees to recognize and report fire hazards as they're out and about during the day. And what we've learned is that second to fears about losing our homes or our lives in a wildfire is the stress we have about losing our homeowner's insurance or having the premiums triple. The New York Times recently reported that the insurance market has largely collapsed in high-risk areas, which is probably most of California. The problem, or where people live in California anyway, the problem has never been more urgent given the record number of wildfires that we have seen this summer. Today, we know that hundreds of people have tuned in here to find out what they can do to protect themselves. If our homes can't be insured, they can't be sold, and they will have no value. And these are our biggest investments quite often. Well, I look forward to hearing from our distinguished guests today and learning from them. The best way for us to protect our homes and our lives from a disaster is to educate ourselves and to harden our homes and our community. Today, we have the best consumer resources here for you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Melanie. And yes, thank you for your work in the community, getting us educated and a step closer to safety and partnering with us here today. And now I want to turn it over to Chief Richwine. Chief Richwine was appointed as California State Marshal by Governor Gavin Newsom in May of 2020. So just as things were starting to heat up, Chief, you took over. He has extensive experience with CAL FIRE and served as our acting state fire marshal since 2018. Prior to that, he served as Assistant State Fire Marshal from 2012 to 2018. Welcome, Chief Richwine. And again, thank you so much for your service to our state.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman Bauer-Kahan. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today in Orinda and in the Contra Costa County. I had a chance to visit the Orinda Firewise Council website, and it is chock full of great information. You stole all my thunder. Everything I was going to say is on the website. So you're doing it right there. And so anyone who's listening and has questions about how to start a Firewise program, I would highly recommend that you tap into Orinda. Trying to set a timer here. Thank you. I wanted to share a little bit about what's going on in our fire activity. It is just major eye-opening. Many of us who've been around for many, many years have never seen the type of fire activity that we're witnessing now. We were laughing one morning over coffee about, back in the day stories. But if you had a fire that was 5,000, 10,000 acres, it was considered a campaign fire. It was like your lifetime fire you'll ever go on. And now, we see fire activity that is increasing 100,000 acres per day. We have had 24 major wildfires in complexes since the beginning of the year. We've burned over 2.6 million acres since the siege began in July. And when you combine that with federal lands, so from the beginning of January, we are well north of 3 million acres that have been destroyed by fire. And we have 60,000 people who have been evacuated. We have 19 fatalities, and I'm afraid that number is probably going to go up as well. And so what's striking is that 5 of the largest, 20 of the largest wildfires in our history have occurred this year. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Santa Clara complex and the Lightning complex in the Lake Napa unit were competing for the #1 and #2 biggest fires of all time. And along comes the August fire, and it has now totally eclipsed that and has moved into the #1 place. The good news of all that is that the fatalities and the structure loss was lower than what we saw in the fires of 2017 and 2018. But it's just unprecedented. And it's clear to us that the climate is changing because the fire behavior is just crazy. This year's acres burned is 26 times higher than acres burned in all of 2019, and we still have several months of our worst fire season to come. And the combined number of acres burned is larger than the state of Connecticut. We've been blessed with great support from out of state. We've been competing with resources from out of state because we have fires burning in Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Utah. They've got some precipitation and they've been able to help out. But we still have currently, what do we have? 14,800 firefighters on the line. Many of our folks have been out for over 70, close to 80 days straight on the fire lines. And so we're reaching a fatigue point. We're trying to get them rested, and we're just crossing our fingers that we don't have any injuries or fatalities. But we still have a big job ahead of us. We're prepared for it, and we're grateful for the support that we get from the legislature, Assemblywoman Bauer-Kahan, and of course, Governor Newsom, who have provided us with appropriations and with funding and with program support that we need to be able to fight the wildfires, but also to be able to help prevent the wildfires. And since our message here today is about the prevention, I just wanted to highlight a couple of programs within the Fire Marshal's office that we work on and that we can discuss later in the program. But the legislature has approved funding for us to have a utility mitigation program where we work on with the IOUs, the independent operators, to help review their wildfire mitigation plans to help eliminate the threat from electrical lines. We've developed a home hardening list, a low-cost home hardening list that's available on our website. We have, of course, our defensible space program. We've been augmented with 858 additional seasonal firefighters and 172 additional permanent firefighters that do prevention work first, but they're all out on the line now fighting fire. And so we've been grateful for that augmentation as well. So we have a number of programs, our public education program, the grants that we received out of SB 901 that's being funded $200 million a year. We're now in year 3 of that. And we get over 300 applications every year for those grant funds to do fuel management work, to do public education and fire prevention in the communities. And when I say communities, it's important that we emphasize that because it's really a community-based effort that's required to make change. We need to have the forest management and the landscape treated properly, but we need to create community fuel breaks. We need to have programs in place like the Firewise program, and we need to harden our homes, those homes that were built prior to 2008. So a lot of this information is available on the Orinda Firewise Council webpage, and also available on the State Fire Marshal CAL FIRE readyforwildfire.org website. So thank you for the time to open up with you today.
Thank you so much. And I know, the Santa Clara Complex Fire evacuated part of my district over in the Livermore Valley, and
Yeah,
we're honored to be hosting one of your command centers, and we see just how hard those firefighters are working day and night to fight this. So thank you again. I know it's a lot, and your service is, I speak on behalf of all of my constituents when I say we are so grateful for everything that CAL FIRE has done.
thank you.
Last but not least, we have Amy Bach, the Executive Director from the United Policyholders. Amy has been a professional advocate for insurance policyholders since 1984 and an attorney since 1989. While practicing insurance regulatory law, she's a fellow regulatory geek like me, and representing clients in litigation matters, she co-founded United Policyholders in 1991. In 2005, she became the organization's full-time executive director and primary spokesperson, shaping and overseeing the Roadmap to Recovery, Roadmap to Preparedness, and Advocacy Action Programs. Thank you so much for your advocacy, Amy, and welcome. Oh, Amy, you're muted.
Go. Thank you so much, Assembly Member and Commissioner Lara and Melanie and Sue and everyone who helped bring this program together today. Yeah, our organization, we're often described as small but mighty, but the way we get lots of good work done for people who buy insurance and need that insurance to deliver is by partnering, and everybody on this panel I consider a partner, we have an initiative going through our organization to really it's very much in synergy with what the Firewise and the Fire Safe Councils are doing, and that is we do have a crisis in home insurance in many parts of California. Insurance companies they were one of the first corporate sectors to say the words climate change out loud, and keep it real. And so, but of course their version of adapting to climate change has been to pull out of some areas and to charge more and to cover less. And so for the homeowners and the consumers that my organization serves, we're trying to get a better balance back in, right? So We have an initiative called the WRAP program, which is the Wildfire Risk Reduction and Asset Protection Program. And basically what we're trying to do is take the great work that people like Melanie and Sue and you are doing in your district, and connect you with the great work that's being done in Novato, in Marin, in Sonoma, in Mariposa, all the counties around the state, all 300 and some fire safe councils that we are helping be a connector to all of you with regard to insurance, because we all know we want homes to be insured, we want them to be protected. We understand why insurers are doing what they're doing, but what we need a solution. And so to us, we see the solution, at least a partial solution, to restoring affordable insurance for homes throughout the state, is to reduce the underlying wildfire risk, which is exactly what the fire safe councils and Firewise is trying to do. Reduce the fuels and reduce the risk, and that will help bring insurers back. And if they don't come back, then the FAIR plan will, which is currently the insurer of last resort, we will just keep on improving it. There's been improvements already to that program, and we'll just have to keep making them. So I want to thank you for this opportunity to be a participant. Our organization's website, uphelp.org, uphelp.org. Great resource for what can I do if I have to shop for insurance, if I've been dropped. Uphelp.org/dropped will take you right to our resources. The Department of Insurance has really good resources too for shopping. So I say use them both. Use us, we're a nonprofit, use them, they're a government agency. And together, we're gonna keep California homes protected and do everything we can to protect our beautiful state.
Thank you so much, Amy, and for everything you do to advocate for us every day. So I want to thank you all for those wonderful introductions and providing a little bit of background about what you're doing to keep us safe here in the district, as well as the work you are all doing in Sacramento alongside me and my colleagues. I want to take a little bit of a moment here and just tell you what we as a legislature are doing. You heard the commissioner start to mention Senator Dodd's bill 872, which was a good step in the right direction. Hopefully the governor will sign that if he's listening, which he's not. We're asking you to sign it. But there's so much that we've tried to do to make sure that we are moving forward and not backwards in our fight against wildfires, even though right now with these smoky skies, it feels like we're not going in that direction. So one of the things that you heard the chief talk a little bit about is utility caused wildfires. It's obviously something that is on our minds often as people who live in Northern California. And so the legislature has taken steps to try to improve that, to make sure that we're fixing our failing energy infrastructure, there's clear accountability from our IOUs, and that the safety failures that have happened in the past that are acted upon and that we have oversight moving forward. So we passed AB 1054, which created additional safety oversight processes for the utility infrastructure and will establish a jointly funded wildfire fund, which addresses wildfire liabilities so that hopefully it's another source to make sure that those who suffer from these utility caused wildfires are not left without recourse. But it's not enough. I know that we need to do more, and we need to make sure that our utilities are being responsible, that we don't see the many fires start that we know were started by our utility, and then we get a control on this infrastructure that is really failing us. So we will continue to work on that. I introduced a bill this year, and I'm going to reintroduce it that will create more accountability on the part of the utilities. But we're also working a lot on what you've heard, which is mitigation, wildfire prevention. How do we help be partners with CAL FIRE and others to make sure that we're getting ahead of these fires? We're not always putting them out, but instead we're preventing them. And so part of that is funding the vegetation management work that our fire departments want and need to do. And so as many of you know, many parts of the district I represent have been identified as high risk fire zones. And my office has worked alongside CAL FIRE, MOFD. You heard about Chief Winokur, who those of us who had the pleasure of working with the chief know just how hard he works every day to keep us safe, to make sure that that North Orinda shaded fuel break happened, that we got that fuel break from where he says the fire is most at risk of coming towards us from the and make sure we have that fuel break. And I'm so grateful that we got that work done before this fire season, but there is more work to be done. And we've been working with Chief Winokur to try to get funding to extend that fire break all the way along the ridgeline of the Berkeley and Oakland Hills. So there's really a true fire break here where we know our fires are most at risk. So again, we continue to be advocates for that work to make sure we're funding the critical work that will keep our communities safe. I just want to also acknowledge the tremendous partnerships that we have alongside this. This town hall is one of many that we've done with Chief Winokur and Con Fire to share with our community what they can do to mitigate and keep their community safe. I have to say, I'm gonna have a little confession here that I didn't quite understand what ladder fuels were until my own town hall. So we always can learn more about what we can do to keep our houses safe. Another one that I picked up was the leaves in my gutters, how important that is to preventing fires. So there's always more to learn. And so attending these and having the opportunity to host them, to share that information with the community is really critical. I'm going to take another moment to plug emergency alerts. We've had some evacuations in the district where not everyone knew about it in the way they should, because sadly you have to sign up for those emergency alerts. So I'm going to take this moment to remind all of you, if you have not already done it, to make sure you sign up for those CWS alerts at cwsalerts.com. And that's for my Contra Costa residents. For my Alameda residents, you go to acgov.org/emergency site. But make sure you can Google it, sign up, because we want to make sure when there is an evacuation, you are getting the information you need. Some of you think that Nixle is what you need. Nixle is good, but it's not everything. Those CWS alerts push through your phone differently. We can get to you in ways we can't get to you using those Nixle alerts. So please sign up for those. It's really critical. And I want to also say just one moment about PSPS, the public safety power shutoffs. We just were threatened with them last weekend, but it's important to sign up for your alerts with PG&E to make sure you're getting those alerts and you know what's happening and what's coming at you. So pgne.com.mywildfirealerts will get you the information you need about those power shutoffs. My office is always pushing out information on that. We like to make sure you have all the best information as that is heading our way. So sign up for my email list as well. But PG&E has set up a new portal, and we're promised that this season of power shutoffs is going to come with better communication. I'm probably as skeptical about that as you are, but let's hope. So sign up for those alerts. It's going to be a tough fire season, and there's no silver bullet. We've already seen that. So we each need to do our part. And I think the message that I've heard that is most important, and I hope you take away from this, is that it's going to take all of us. This is a community effort. And I have the privilege of representing what I believe is one of the best communities in the state. So I know you'll come together and you'll each do your part to get rid of those fuels that are on your property and help your neighbors do the same so that we can be safe as these fires come our way. So with that, I am going to go to some of your questions. So we got several questions from our constituents. We're excited to answer those today. I know we may not get through all of them, and if we don't, we will get you a response from whoever on the call is or on the panel is most appropriate to answer your questions. So if I don't get to it, I apologize. But we're going to start with a question for Commissioner Lara. So last year, Commissioner Lara, you issued a moratorium on insurance cancellations, and it impacted a couple of the cities I represent, including the one I live in, so in Orinda and Lafayette. But the moratorium ends on December 5th. So what do you anticipate will happen when it ends? And do you think homeowners will be receiving non-renewal letters? If so, what can we do to be proactive? How do you think the landscape will change?
Yes, thank you. It's a great question. As you mentioned, before I was elected insurance commissioner, I was already seeing homeowners that needed more insurance protection after an emergency. And that's why I authored this law to give at least a minimum a year protection from insurance non-renewals if you live within a perimeter of a declared wildfire emergency, as you well know. So last year we put that law into effect for the first time after the Governor Newsom declared a wildfire emergency, working with CAL FIRE and the governor's office, CAL OES. It continues to protect more than 1 million policyholders, including about 16,000 there in Orinda and Lafayette. To answer your question, when it expires in December 2020, it's possible that some insurance companies may not renew some policies that were protected, but I'm hopeful that my actions really leads insurance companies to hit a pause button and make more considered decisions than their immediate reaction that would have been after a major fire I also hope it has given homeowners more time to address issues on their properties that can help avoid non-renewals. My department is working with insurance companies now to take into account home hardening and other mitigation efforts you might have done. And the governor and the state have also invested, as you were mentioning, Assemblywoman, on new fuel reduction, including the North Orinda shaded fuel break, which was completed last December to help protect La Morinda. To close, I would also tell you that, you know, the governor's emergency declaration on August 18th and on September 6th, again, we are working with our partner agencies at CAL FIRE and the governor's office to see where the parameters are going to be of those fires. Also, as first responders get containment of these latest fires, we will be working with them to determine what are the impacted areas. But I don't want to get ahead of our firefighters and local responders who are working to contain these blazes. I have already notified insurance companies that they do so that they don't issue the non-renewal notices, and that we will need to hopefully take a break and really assess the situation before we start just giving these blanket non-renewals. So, you know, we're on it. We can't make any promises, but we're hopeful that after the insurance companies see so much of what's being done in the community, that hopefully we don't get as many non-renewals. Again, the work that Melanie has done, Sue, I need to, you know, clone them and take them all around, put them everywhere around the state, because really it is by far some of the most, you know, comprehensive work that's being done in the part of the state. Joel from my department, who's my senior counsel here, who, by the way, I think he's your constituent, Assemblywoman, and it's his last day in the department, so I'm gonna make him work. Joel, anything that I missed?
No, Commissioner, I'll jump in if you need help on future questions, but I think you got it all. I do live in Moraga, so thank you. I am your constituent and supporter, and I have signed up for all the alerts. So thank you for putting that message out there, and maybe I'll join in on the next question. Thanks.
Oh, you will.
Thank you, Joel. And yes, we had actually, when the Sanders Ranch fire happened in Moraga, and it was during the power safety shutoff. And, you know, one of the best ways for us to get those messages across is using those CWS alerts that can push through to your phone in different ways. So making sure Moragans know how to get those alerts. So the next question, which maybe I will address to Amy. So some of us live in Firewise certified neighborhoods, and we worked with our local fire department to achieve that certification. In addition, we've spent thousands of dollars removing trees and reducing fuel load on our properties. Yet we are faced with insurance premiums that have doubled. What does the panel advise? And what should a Firewise community member do when faced with the cancellation of insurance or the increase of those premiums, despite the fact that they live in the Firewise certified neighborhood? So these are people who've done the work and their insurance isn't taking it into account. So I can turn that over to either the commissioner or Amy, whoever wants to address it.
Well, I can take a crack, and then the commissioner can jump in, or vice versa, as you wish. And okay, so, you know, I had before we sort of formalized this project, this initiative, I actually went on a ride along in your district in Orinda with then Fire Marshal, I don't think she's Kathy Leonard, and we went to a home of somebody who had been non-renewed by their insurance company, and the fire department walked around the house, you know, with the homeowner. I observed, and the fire department said, okay, you could do that, you should clear out your gutters and the things you were talking about. You know, you should really create that defensible space around the house, and we will come back once you've done it, and we will give you a letter, and then you can use that letter with your insurance company to convince them to keep you. Well, that was in 2016, right? Fast forward, and firefighters around the state have been doing that, you know, and God bless them. They don't get paid to do it. They've been doing it, right? The problem is those letters aren't working anymore. The insurance companies have really, they are not legally required to give you any kind of a break for reducing a risk. And we, with Commissioner Lara and our organization, we tried to get a bill in this year, didn't get a hearing, so we're going to try again. But I think to require insurers to give you some kind of break for making your home more fire resistant, whether it's that they have to keep you for another year beyond a moratorium, or that they give you some sort of a break. Really, we need an incentive so that every home feels that it is financially worthwhile for them to put the time and money into reducing risk, right? Right now, insurers have the freedom to ignore those. We know that's not the best public policy. We're going to have to really hold insurers' feet to the fire, pardon the pun, a little bit more and say, listen, this is a partnership. You can't just walk away. We need your expertise. You know, insurance companies, they have a lot of expertise in risk. So the short answer to your question is, we would ask people to join this WRAP initiative with us if they're already a member of a Firewise Council, then a Firewise organization, info@uphelp.org, join our initiative. If they're not a member of their Firewise Council, that's the most important thing to do.
Yeah, I'll just add quickly, you know, there is a few insurance companies that are offering discounts that recognize the efforts that our great Firewise communities take to collectively mitigate the risk. I would, quite frankly, would love to see a lot more of them doing that. But even those insurance companies may choose to not renew homes in areas where they feel they have, an over concentration of policies, or where they believe the risk of loss is just too high, as Amy was talking about. And there's no law that dictates that insurers must write Firewise communities or highly mitigated homes. Again, I wish we could have gone a hearing in the Assembly Insurance Committee for my sponsored legislation that would have guaranteed coverage for homes that met consistent science-based mitigation standards that many of your constituents already know how to do. At the end of the day, we're gonna have to provide incentives so that Californians can do the right thing. We're talking, it gets expensive after a while. I mean, I'm sure a lot of your constituents know this, but yet there is no requirement that an insurance company write you a policy. So all that investment, and even for our folks in the foothills who are, and every part of the state who are economically diverse, we're talking people who are, retired, people who are disabled and can't do the hardening themselves, people who are senior citizens and can no longer afford to pay the thousands of dollars. And often we have to incentivize people to do the right thing. And all we're saying is, we're not telling insurance companies you have to provide coverage for every single home, but we're saying for those that have invested thousands of dollars to harden their property, you have to write them a policy. We think that's fair. And I'll tell you, and I get a little ticked off when we talk about this issue, because their only solution is to raise rates. And so I'm like, wait a minute, you can't raise the rates to the point where people can no longer afford their policy, and then it gets to the point where many people, their debt ratio flips. So you're paying more for your home insurance than for your property, for your home. That is ridiculous. And, so many people are losing their homes already because of the pandemic. And we're starting to see the domino effect of what happens in communities that are priced out of insurance. If you can't find insurance for your property, you can't sell that property. And if you can't sell that property, it means it's going to cost less, which means less resources for our local responders who need the resources to fight these fires. It is an awful domino effect that happens. And so we're going to come back with legislation that says we as a community, and we're going to ask our Firewise councils from throughout the state to join us and say, you know what, fair is fair. We are putting our money where our mouth is. We're investing thousands of dollars to hard in our homes, and we need some assurance that we're going to get coverage, and we need discounts. We need the legislature to come up with some sort of loan forgiveness program for folks, subsidies for our lowest income community members, and for tax credits, so that everybody in our income level can be incentivized to do the right thing and give support to where they need it. So we're not going to give up. I spent close to 16 years in the legislature, and I know it takes a while to get things done, but we're going to come back and we're going to continue to fight. So we're going to ask you all for your support when we do this.
Well, count me in, Commissioner. Let me know how I can help.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. And as someone who lives I know Melanie and I have a shared love of the chipper program in our community, because because part of what it did was you had to get some of your neighbors together. In order to get the chipper to come, you couldn't do just your house, right? And so it was one of the ways that I saw streets in my neighborhood come together to do this work together. And I think that's what we have to do. And we need to incentivize it. And we need to say that if you do this work, you will be protected, right? And currently we're not doing that. And so there are amazing people like Melanie who are out there doing it, but we should also incentivize everyone else to join us. So happy to sign on to that legislation. My staff's me upset I did that live, but I agree. So, next question is for Chief Richwine. My daughter and her husband recently purchased a home from an elderly widow. They spent as much as their budget would allow. The owner had not done fuel mitigation on the property for a number of years. In particular, there are Monterey pine trees on the property that appear to have reached their lifespan. So we know that's one of those fuels, dead pine trees. Taking down these trees is going to cost thousands of dollars and much more than we budgeted for. What is your advice to people like this who have work they know they need to do fuel mitigation, but it's outside their budget?
Thank you for that question. And thank you for your vote on the appropriation of the funds to establish the fire prevention grants that we have, because that would be my recommendation. I recommend that they contact the Fire Safe Council in their county, work through a Firewise organization, their local fire department. There are a lot of grant funds out there. Perhaps they could partner with others in their neighborhood to put together a grant, or approach the Fire Safe Council to put together a grant to help them to provide the funding and the labor to remove those trees off of their property.
And I will say that if you live in somewhere where you have a wonderful Firewise Council, they're probably a good source, but you can always call an office like mine. My office is available to help you find those grant dollars if you don't know how to find them. So make sure to reach out to people to help you find it.
If I can just add, we have $200 million a year over the next, well, it was an appropriation of $1 billion for 5 years. That's 200 million. We're going into year 3 right now. And so there's a lot of money and a lot of applications. Also ask the fire department to work through the local nearby CAL FIRE unit, because they help to prioritize what the need is in their area as well. So the local fire department working with the CAL FIRE unit to establish that justification.
That's great. That's where our dollars should be spent. Prevention. Let's not just worry about we should worry about taking care of people after they've lost their homes, but the best thing to do would be prevent the loss in the first place. So the next questions is about current, and I'll address this to the commissioner. So insurance companies are requiring policyholders to mitigate according to guidelines that are not reflected in the current fire code or fire science. So if your insurance company is asking you to go above and beyond where the fire code is, for example, asking you to cut down trees when those specific trees aren't necessarily a fire hazard in this person's opinion, what would you recommend they do?
Yeah, we get this question a lot, actually, and I agree that tree removals can be subjective, and there's a lot of judgment involved in how the transmission of a fire will travel through a particular landscape. I want to know if it's gonna, and people want to know if it's gonna make a difference. Is the tree removal based on fire science? Is the insurance inspector trained in fire science? Have the first responders been consulted to get their opinion? This is why I want to see consistent standards that are transparent to the public, and that apply to all companies. That's another big issue. Until we have these standards, you should still do everything you can to mitigate the risk, starting with your dwelling and working outward. Although, costly, I could tell you, and the chief can tell you as well, replacing wood, shake roof reduces your likelihood of non-renewal, and more importantly, your likelihood of having a major loss. There are also less expensive fixes to make, such replacing your interior vents with ember-resistant mesh vents, address vegetation with 5 feet of your home to reduce any contact points. I would also say, work to create a defensible space, as we all know, and reduce hazard all the way around your property line. And if your local fire department inspects your property, you can share the results of that inspection with your insurance company and ask them to, to make a different decision. You can also bring your concerns to the department. You can call us at 1-800-927-4357 or visit us at insurance.ca.gov. Again, we have to come up with statewide mitigation standards, or else we're going to be left with what we have now, a hodgepodge of all these different programs that just send all these mixed messages, so that communities are going at it at their own, because we as a state, having come up with that, we're going to propose and work on some regulation to finally get that done, because it's the only way we can, as we're saying, we have to move from the individual parcel and now into community-wide mitigation efforts. And what do those standards look like? And allowing flexibility for, the unique topography of a specific community, but at least give communities a minimum standard of what they have to meet, so that then the insurance company, and we have to work with the insurance companies to agree to these standards, so that we're all in agreement that all this is going to work to reduce the effort, keep insurance companies writing in these communities. It's the only way I see we move forward from out of this. Assemblywoman, I agree with you 100%. Mitigation, 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 but we have to give clear standards to what that is. And that's where you're going to see the insurance companies say, oh, mitigation, there's no science behind it. We don't know, we're not sure yet what that means. I'm like, well, then talk to Chief Richwine, talk to, Cal Fire. And now they're starting to see that we need to move towards that direction. And a lot of them are saying, well, there's no science behind that. We don't know if we're going to take that into consideration. So we just got to have to make it happen, like we always have.
Commissioner, if I can add, it's all about building resiliency and against ember intrusion, right? And so those things that you mentioned, those low-cost steps that a homeowner can take to put screens over their vents, over their chimney, to do their defensible space work, will all help in a 5-foot ignition zone around their house, remove combustibles around their house. All of that will help their home and their property be less receptive to ember ignition. So thank you for those tips.
Thank you so much. So question for Amy. Do you have any recommendations for home buyers shopping for insurance in very high fire risk areas that are having difficulty finding an insurance company to insure them?
Yes, and that is just to access the free information that's available through my organization, uphelp.org, and also through the Department of Insurance. We did a webinar just last week, and Joel from CDI was on it, and we had a broker, somebody who works for the FAIR Plan, and we named the names of the different companies that might be an option. That recording is available on our website. I can also send a link to your office for your constituents. Maybe you want to shoot it out and people can watch it. There are some companies out there, and the situation changes week to week. So it's not like everybody is having to go to the FAIR Plan. There are some companies, but you've got to really be, it takes time. It's much more time consuming to shop. It's a seller's market right now, not a buyer's market.
Thank you for that. Well, we can send that link out if people are interested. And Commissioner Lara, there's some confusion about the community FAIR Plan. We've mentioned it a couple times about the FAIR Plan. We mentioned a couple times as the insurer of last resort, but will you explain that to folks listening what it is? Oh, you're muted, Commissioner.
Perfect.
There you go.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was answering a question in the Q&A, which was really good about of discounts. Do you? I'm sorry. I'm so bad.
Oh, you're okay. Can you give us the short explanation of what the FAIR plan is? We mentioned it a couple times.
Got it.
so we-
Oh, absolutely. So the FAIR plan is the insurer of last resort. Here I'm trying to multitask and failing miserably.
You
My
try.
mom always says, "Stop trying. Just focus on one thing." You know, I'm a male, whatever. You know, it happens. So the FAIR plan is the insurer of last resort, and it is funded by the insurance industry, and it's really meant to capture all those that essentially cannot find a homeowner's policy because they live in the WUI or in areas that are considered too risky. So a couple things that we're doing. When I came into office, I quickly realized, wait, the FAIR plan, one, is really expensive and it's not comprehensive. It is very limited in coverage. And to me, it's unfair because they're willing to take not willing to take your fire risk, but will not take any other risk from your home. So what you have to do is get a DIR and then buy additional wraparound insurance that ends up costing more money because guess what? You're paying another administrative fee for that product. And so what we are doing, and they're suing me in the department because we want them to also offer, in additional to their traditional policy, I want them to offer a comprehensive policy where consumers, if you're being sent to the FAIR plan, that you get a comprehensive policy that encompasses everything, just like a traditional insurance policy. So you don't have to take out an additional wraparound policy that is only going to cost you more already in an area that you're already going to be paying significantly more. So we're fighting it out in court, and we'll keep you abreast to that. But we mandated that they up their coverage limits. So they've done that. We've mandated that they actually take monthly payments, and you could use a credit card to pay. I mean, talk about modernizing the FAIR plan, which they hadn't done since the 70s. So, they're not too fond of me these days, but I'm sorry, they need to be responsive to the needs of our community now, and people that are on the FAIR plan should be able to use technology to make their payments. So the FAIR plan is there to be the insurer of last resort. It needs to modernize. They're doing, they're being good in terms of upping the limits, which haven't been, raised since the 70s, but they also should be providing a comprehensive policy so that consumers are not paying twice in terms of an administrative fee. So that's what the FAIR plan is.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm so sad we're out of time. We have so many more questions, but for those of you that didn't get your questions answered, we will be responding to you on the contact information you gave us. So I'm sorry we couldn't get more information to you, but it's all out there. You heard our websites, but I want to give a chance to all of our panelists to give closing remarks. What do you want our listeners to take away with them today? And we'll start with you, Commissioner Lara.
Thank you. All I would say is if you're facing any insurance-related issue, whether it's healthcare, you're a business owner that is trying to figure out how you're going to keep your business open, what coverage do you need during the pandemic, if you've lost your home, if you're having trouble finding affordable insurance, I want to remind you that our department is here to help you. This is what we do. And I know, as the Assemblywoman was saying, we learn as we go. And I know insurance is complicated. And I know people don't want to really delve into that, but you have to. We have no choice, as we're seeing over 700 fires now. It's complicated for me as your insurance commissioner, but we are here to help you. We are the largest consumer protection agency, and we're on your side. So our website again is insurance.ca.gov. We have a lot of resources on our website. Of course, Amy Boss will tell you about all the great things they have at UP, but you can also contact us directly through our website chat function again, or by calling us at 1-800-927-4357. We're here to help you during these difficult times and to help you find resources in order for you to, recover as quickly as possible. So please stay safe. We're going to get there. We're going to get through this together like we always have. We're resilient Californians, and we're going to continue to move forward. So thank you again for giving us this opportunity, Assemblywoman.
Oh, thank you so much for partnering with us on it. Now, Chief Richwine. Your parting words for our audience.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this teletown hall. You're doing a terrific job in your communities. I just want you to continue to support community-based efforts and work with your fire safe council, your Firewise council. There's a lot of great information on the website, as I mentioned earlier. And then on the CAL FIRE website, or just Google or type in readyforwildfire.org. There is or readyforwildfire.com, one of those two. A lot of great information on there on defensible space, home hardening, and tips for you to prepare in the event of a wildfire in your area, to prevent and to be prepared in the event of a wildfire. Thank you again, Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan, for inviting me.
Oh, thanks for being here. I know how busy you are, so we really appreciate your very valuable time. Amy.
Closing, yes. Thank you so much again, Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan. So the skies have been reminding all of us not to be complacent. We don't need to be reminded about the risks that we face that go with the beauty. So our motto at United Policyholders is be prepared, not scared. And that means inventory your assets, take your smartphone, go around your house, dictating as you go, describing your important valuables, and then showing the features of your house. Make sure you send that video someplace safe so that you'll be able to find it. You know, participate in your community risk reduction efforts. Know who your insurance company is and where your policy is. If God forbid you have to evacuate, make sure that you've got that information where you can find it. And most importantly, you know, you do have to pay a little more attention to insurance than you did in the past. But there's so much help available, and you've heard a lot of it today. And so, you know, you do live in a state that does protect its consumers. And the California Department is head and shoulders above most of the state departments of insurance. And they provide a level of help that's very deep and very unique. So, and you have my organization. We were born in the East Bay, and you know, we've been around for 30 years, and we feel very grateful to have the partnerships with people like you and CAL FIRE and local fire agencies and the CDI, and then the community activists that are really carrying the ball here in such an important way. So thanks again, and stay safe out there.
Thank you. And last but definitely not least, I want to turn it over to Melanie. But first, I want to thank her specifically because she's the one who got the ball rolling on this town hall and requested it, because she knows firsthand what it is our community is looking for and needs. So Melanie, your final words.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan. Thank you for being our partner with this. All of you today, Chief Richwine, Amy Bach, Commissioner Lara, you've all been so energizing and quite frankly reassuring. Wildfire is super scary to think about. And as I'm coming away from this session, I'm just thinking everybody is working really hard at all our jobs. And we citizens know that our job is to work together in our communities to clean them up and to educate ourselves. So this is a problem we can solve. You know, once you get rid of stuff, it's gone. And I would just say, people who are listening, if you're not in a Firewise group, try to form one. If you need help, there's plenty of information on the Firewise site. You can certainly drop us a line at orindafirewisecouncil.org. We'd be more than happy to help you and share with you our experience, help you organize more in your neighborhood. So I feel like that poster from World War II, we can do it. It's just sort of right in my mind right now, but it's true. We can do it. It's going to be super tough. It's scary. It's hard, but we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie and Sue, for everything you do in our community. I think it was when we met last, I was telling you about the sheep that my neighborhood was sharing. Yes. It was going from house to house to house to clean up and create defensible space in all of our backyards in our neighborhood. So neighborhoods can come together in very creative ways, including walking sheep down your streets. That's what was happening in my neighborhood at the time. So please get out there, work with your neighbors, and do everything you can, because it is scary, but we do have a part to play in what happens in our future. It is not out of our our control. And I hope you've learned a little bit about that today and how you can be a part of it. So I want to thank you all for joining us today, for being here, being engaged in this conversation on how we can mitigate and protect ourselves in the case of a wildfire. I also want you to know that my office is here to support you. We get calls on this all the time. If we're not the ones who can answer your question and you need to go to the Department of Insurance or elsewhere, we can send you in the right direction. So do also feel free to reach out to us. My phone number is 925-328-1515. And you can always reach me by email as well at assemblymember.Bauer-Kahan@assembly.ca.gov. So we're here to help. This has been so great. Thank you all so much. Thank you again, Orinda Firewise, for pushing us to do this. It's been a great conversation. I hope it's helpful to everyone out there.